Hi everyone. Today I want to continue our discussion about how to use evidence effectively. First, I would like to go over yesterday's assessment, which was more of a pre-assessment. It does not count as a full grade, although some of us may see drastic differences in our grade after those grades have been entered. Keep in mind they are only 0.25 of one grade, and the follow-up will be 0.75. So if you did not do well on this one, the complete grade is coming up, okay? So first I'm going to share my screen so we could see the answer key for this assessment. The first question asks, which statement best describes the major theme of this story? And as usual, if you get this question wrong, you often fall into kind of a trap here. You'll see here these standards, RL2, RL1, RL3, RL1. RL1 refers to citing evidence. So if you were to get question 1 wrong, you probably get question 2 wrong as well. Likewise, if you get question 3 wrong, you probably get question 4 wrong. So when we first read The Telltale Heart, we discussed how fear can shape how we see things and how we act. We discussed that although it seems like maybe he feels guilty, that's why he confesses, he's really more driven by fear, all right? Letter C says our sanity is determined by how we react to different situations. While this is true, it's not really true as it is presented in the story because there aren't different situations in the story, there's only one. Answer D says the truth is a matter of personal perception and beliefs. This is also untrue. We talked about at the end of the story when he's like raving about in the room and the cops are apparently just sitting there talking pleasantly. Wouldn't happen. There is truth. And although we have an unreliable narrator, we can kind of see the truths that, we could see the things that contradict with each other and cannot be true. So if you chose the correct answer, B, fear can shape how we see things and how we act, the next question is, what is your evidence? And I know that this is tough. I know that I remember when taking these assessments, I always think, oh, I know the answer, but the answer is not one of the choices. So you always want to find the best one. Answer A says, whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever, from paragraph 2. This answer directly speaks to fear. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. My blood ran cold is representative of the character's fear. Says, yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he found all in vain. Here, the narrator is talking about his victim's kind of perspective, but this doesn't really lend itself to how fear can shape how we see things and how we act. Answer C says, as the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart. For what had I now to fear? Here, the character has no fear at all, so it wouldn't apply to answer B. And then the last one, I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noises steadily increased. This one I could see a lot of students answering. However, remember we want to find the best answer. Although I gasped for breath and the officers heard it not, does sound like maybe he is fearful. Answer A speaks more directly to it, with my blood ran cold. Question 3 asks, in the story, what causes the conflict between the narrator and the old man? This is a plot understanding question. So answer A says the narrator and the old man resent having to live together. That's never indicated. Answer B says the narrator is driven mad by the sound of a heart beating beneath the floorboards, and this causes him to kill the old man. This is a true statement, but it's not a true statement in regards to the question. What causes the conflict between the narrator and the old man? If the question were, what causes the narrator to confess, answer B might be the right answer. Question C, answer C says the narrator watches the old man sleep, and when the terrified old man discovers this, the narrator kills him to keep his madness hidden. This doesn't really answer the root of why the old man is killed. The old man is killed because the narrator is terrified by the old man's eye. He's overwhelmed by the sound of his heartbeat, so the narrator kills the old man. Part B to question 3. which part of the following quotes best supports the answer to part A? And then the answer is answer C. But the beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. So, although the conflict originates from the old man's eye, as we see in answer D, he is overwhelmed by the sound of his heart. And that's why answer B is a little deceptive. But key here is the sound of the heart beneath the floorboards. The old man's heart is not beneath the floorboards at this point, so he doesn't kill him there. So that's why answer C is the appropriate response there. Answer A says the disease has sharpened my senses. This doesn't explain why he kills the old man. Answer B says I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he had turned in the bed. His fears had since been growing upon him. That wouldn't be an answer either, because that does not speak to why he kills the old man. And then villains, I shrieked, dissemble no more. If the question were, why does the narrator confess to the police? This would certainly be an answer, would be evidence to your answer, but that's not what the question is asking. All right. Which of the following best describes the significance of the beating heart throughout the story? This is RL4, which means determine the meanings of words and phrases as they are used in a text, figurative and connotative meanings. Analyze the impact of a specific word choice on meaning and tone. So there is a little bit about guilt in this story. We talked about that on Monday when we first read the story. The first answer is it represents the narrator's own death, like the old man's, drawing near as he faces punishment for his crime. We know nothing about the punishment of his crime. We don't know how they're going to charge him. He confesses, but the story ends there. B, it shows there is something supernatural happening to the narrator, for the ghost of the old man is haunting him. This is completely, wildly untrue in the context of the story. It represents the narrator's guilt and worsening sanity, for the beating heart serves as a reminder of his crime. This would be the correct answer. And then D, it signifies the narrator's anxiety about not burying the old man respectfully after killing him. This is never brought up. So of the four answers, B is the only one that is representative of our discussions. It's representative of what actually happens in the story. A, B, and C, there is no evidence at all for ever occurring in the story. And then compare, this was an open-ended response, and this was graded according to RL3 and RL6. And for this response, I was really looking for you to make some connections with textual evidence. So most of us did pretty well on this one. So it seems like the difficulty is, finding the, kind of rifling through the trick answers that are in some of these and then finding the appropriate evidence, which we're going to keep working on. Like I said, this is only a quarter of the assessment's actual grade. We're going to finish the assessment next week. So again, if you saw a dramatic drop in your grade, don't be alarmed, don't worry, because we're working on this. And by next week, you'll see, hopefully we'll see a lot of growth. All right.